All right, hi, and we're back, and I'm going to be discussing now the volunteer retention solutions that we came up with after reading the survey results. So based on the results that we found, the two most important areas that we thought we could help with that John agreed he has a few areas lacking are in additional training and training improvements, as well as recognition activities. Now when we go into training, they currently have a 1-hour training session. This includes compliance stuff, all the legal business that you kind of have to explain when you're having somebody start a job, or in this case, start volunteering. But now what our team has decided that we want to propose is multiple training sessions, perhaps on different days, and that would imply that the first training session would remain the same. They would keep the compliance stuff, all the legal business that needs to be taken care of, and then on a separate day, there would be a more interactive edition. And what would happen in that is that they would have more examples of circumstances that the volunteers might find themselves in, or triggers that they can find, or different elements that a child might express that would show that they're dealing with trauma or abuse or something along those lines. That gives the volunteers an opportunity to see the different areas that can affect a child's life, and it allows them to notice things easier that otherwise they may not have noticed. John explained that the interactive aspect to his training session is what is lacking the most. One very interesting question that even Luke brought forth on the day of the interview was that he asked John, if you could add 30 minutes to a presentation, what would you want to add? And John said that he wanted interactive additions, and that's why that's so crucial for us to come up with some good interactiveness that we can incorporate into their training programs so that they can get as much out of it and train the volunteers as much as possible. But another example that we could use, and this was an extra comment in our survey results, was that make staff training available for volunteers. A volunteer actually came out and wrote this in one of the surveys, and John had also mentioned it in our meeting. It's that the training staff has specific training that the staff has training that they go through, but that's not available to the volunteers. So if we can help them make that training available to volunteers that want to do it, not mandatory, but just like they voluntarily want to go, then that would give the opportunity for the volunteers that do want supplementary training to go. And now the only issue we found with this is that John thought it would be hard to get to volunteers to dedicate and commit more time to coming on a different day to get extra training, as it's been a difficult aspect in the past. So a final idea that we came up with was online training. So on a database or on some sort of website, they could access this website with a password and a user ID, and they can go through training sessions by themselves. And within this online training, there could be interactive aspects and everything that you would want to add to an in-class training just online. And that would incorporate all the elements together, and the volunteers would have more opportunity to train. After this, we have the recognition activities and events. As previously mentioned in our needs assessment, the Lisa V. Ford event is already being implemented. Lisa V. Ford is the sponsor of the event. She pays for everything, and it's a complete recognition activity for the volunteers to give them awards, to show them that they're being appreciated. But this is the only event that they're doing. That's why when we discussed with John, he previously worked at Big Brother and knew a few types of events that could work, and that way maybe we could incorporate those into the current, along with the Lisa V. Ford event, so that the volunteers have more opportunities to kind of feel recognized and appreciated. This leads us to a Bring a Friend event. The volunteers would be able to bring a couple friends or family members to an event where maybe the first half hour to hour the Children's Center explains what they're all about and what volunteering entails, and the remainder of the night, everybody would just kind of like have a great, like a little party. Like everybody would talk, understand the program, still enjoy each other's company, and not be so focused on kind of a speech or something. That would be more fun for everybody, and you'd learn in the process. Next, we have Tigers games. The Children's Centers mentioned that a lot of the Tigers will donate a lot of tickets to them for just to attend games, and what they're doing right now is they're giving these tickets to some of the families of the program. But what we had mentioned, and it says at the bottom, are volunteer-only events. We thought maybe these tickets could sometimes be given to the volunteers either as a thank you, or they could gather a few tickets and then allow all the volunteers to attend one of these events together, just to kind of, get a more family feel, make friends, enjoy each other's company that's outside of the workplace. because when you do that, the volunteers will be more likely to want to return volunteering to see each other and have fun and kind of hang out while still helping the program. And last, something that John felt was very, very important and helpful was Volunteer of the Month. He loved this idea that we implemented, because if he implements a Volunteer of the Month, he has more recognition throughout the year that's not just simple events here and there. And that's why those are the main events that we thought would be important to incorporate into recognition activities to help them with volunteer retention. Now next, we have the importance of this project going forward. Now, after speaking with John, our team noticed that the main importance of this project is to acquire future donors. Now, as we've mentioned, it's 4 million children in the U.S. have been through abuse or trauma, which is a $124 billion problem. Because John has been working by himself, it's been very hard for him to accomplish the goals that he wants to reach by only being partially funded by the government. So that's why we need to work so hard at helping with volunteer retention, because we need to gain potential donors to get the funds necessary to help John propel this program going forward. Because a child's mental health is crucial to a healthy life, and you don't want to mess with the healing process for those children. So that's why we need to help them acquire future donors for this project. So now I'm going to pass it off to Hussein, who will be covering the schedule of the project.
All right. Moving forward, I'm going to be discussing the schedule of the project in the form of a task-based system that the group has put forth throughout the duration of the project. Now, looking at the first table, we have the first 5 tasks outlined that have been completed within the months of June and July. Beginning with the first task, this one was a preliminary one in which the group was challenged with finding an organization and an issue to help solve. Now, based on our shared interests and experiences, we selected the Children's Center, and from conversations between the group members and the organization representatives, we selected the issue of volunteer retention, as we felt that we could provide a bigger impact on that issue. That leads us to the next 2 tasks, in which has been an ongoing process throughout the project, in which we engaged in research. Task 2 being the primary research, being tours, setting up meetings, and conducting interviews with members of the organization, and secondary research, which involved referencing online resources as well as books. And that leads us to the next task in the needs assessment of the group, in which we began to explore what would be necessary for both the group and the organization, what is required in order to move forward towards a solution to this problem. And this manifested itself as dictating concrete roles to each group member, seeing how we'd like to see our research methods implemented, as well as investigating other solutions to problems similar to this for other organizations. And that has also coincided with meeting with the volunteer supervisor on a semi-regular basis. This has typically occurred at the end of a deadline, as it allowed us to reconvene with the organization and reassess our strategies moving forward towards the solution. With the next table, tasks 6 through 10 are outlined, and these also occurred between the months of June and July. With task 6 being distributing the surveys, our main form of primary research. Surveys were given to the volunteers in order to assess their opinions on the volunteer experience itself, in order to help us acquire feedback and work towards a solution catered to the volunteers. Along with this, the group is also in charge of presenting a progress report to detail what has been accomplished up to this point, including what research has been undertaken, primary and secondary, as well as what solutions have been uncovered. And that has resulted in the next task being anticipating the results of those surveys, acquiring the results, interpreting them, and then using those results to begin formulating possible solutions to bounce off of our volunteer supervisor, and see what has worked in the past, what is feasible for the present and the future. And that has led us up to this current week, in which we, using the feedback, we've created a final solution in the form of a formal proposal, using the feedback from the organization as well as our previous research. Now, following this task, the group does intend on following up with the organization in order to see the possible implementation of this program and to assist with volunteering events and fundraising events. Next, I'll be discussing the team contributions of each group member. Beginning with Sarah, she's been acting as the team leader, project manager, and virtual liaison for our group. This involves the responsibilities of setting up interviews, having us undergo tours, and meeting with representatives to help us further our goal. In addition, during the early phases, she sent back and forth emails with various members of different organizations in order to see which organization could be the best fit for us. Next with Lauren, she's been acting as our lead technical writer as well as our in-person liaison between the organization and ourselves. Her responsibilities include ensuring that all the content put forth by the group members is organized in a reasonable fashion, as well as ensuring that the work is up to a certain standard of high quality expected out of each group member. She also ensured that all the assignments were submitted on time and kept everyone accountable for their work. With the organization, she ensured that face-to-face contact was maintained between us and the organization. Next, we have Luke and I, who primarily acted as researchers, as well as assistants to any miscellaneous tasks that was required. This involved assisting with the primary research, such as finding the appropriate survey questions to ask the volunteers, as well as interpreting the survey results. We were also tasked with experimenting with different forms of presentation software to see what might better fit the needs of the group. And that leads me to the contribution, collaboration, and communications aspect of our group. With the communication aspect, the group exclusively used WhatsApp in order to keep in contact with one another, inform each other of upcoming dates, meetings, and deadlines. Collaboration-wise, as I've said, we've experimented with programs such as Sway and PowerPoint, however, ultimately deciding on Google Drive as that allowed us the most freedom and accessibility to work with one another. Next, the Children's Center contact information is displayed here as well, with the location, phone number, and hours of operation, as well as the contact information for the volunteer supervisor, John Carolyn, who has been assisting us throughout the duration of this project. Located below is the donation page one may access in order to donate money to the organization. However, canned goods, household items, and clothing may also be donated to the main campus. Next, you have the contact information for the group itself, following the format of our first name, period, last name, @wayne.edu. And if anyone has any questions pertaining to the group and our involvement with the organization in the project, feel free to shoot us an email. Now I'm going to have Luke wrap this up.
Okay, thank you, Zane. So in conclusion, just to wrap up a couple of the important points of the presentation, as we said, our volunteer retention tools and our overall solutions for volunteer retention is adding training and improving the training that is implemented right now, and increasing the number of recognition activities. And as Lauren mentions, the importance of this project is going forward is to help with volunteer retention, which will hopefully potentially acquire more future donors, which will give more funds to the organization and help it grow. And then after the course is ended, we will maintain the contact with the Children's Center and try to help out with and set up some volunteer events and stuff like that. And then we've also been tasked with going to the Arts, Beats, and Eats Festival in Royal Oak, and on behalf of the Children's Center, and then just working out with them, and they will in turn donate money to the Children's Center, which will also help them. So even after the class is finished, we can still have the opportunity to benefit them in ways that is outside of the normal research and outside of our normal proposal. So that is all we have for you today. As Hussein has mentioned, if you have any questions about us or our involvement with the organization, you have our contact information, feel free to shoot us an email, and we look forward to hearing from you.